All right, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans, welcome to chapter 292 of Rule the Galaxy podcast. We're back up here.
Keep ticking them down.
I know. We're back up here on the main stage in the podcast room. We've got some special guests here who have some amazing Star Wars experiences themselves. Brent, do you want to introduce our guests here?
So sitting directly to my right, we have Stephen Costantino, and next to him is Aidan Cook, both of which have been in Star Wars and at various roles within Star Wars. I'm going to start off. We're going to get into some of the stories. We've had some epic education while we were waiting for the pod to get started up. Pretty intense stories that I want to make sure we get back out of these guys. But I just kind of want to know, what's your background in acting? What's your background in what got you into acting? How did you get into the world?
I'm not an actor. I'm a musician. And Corey D. Williams and I had a band together in the 80s. And we met through a martial arts teacher. And it was instantaneous. Because Billy D., his dad, is from the East Coast, and so is Corey. So we have a different way to approach music. The California sound is one thing which I love, but you still have an extra little funkiness to you, being from the East. And instantaneously, we sat down and he played bass, I played guitar. So we had a band. And he lived with his dad then, and his dad was very supportive, big music lover. His dad knew everybody in the music business. Actually did a lot of moves with Motown.
Okay.
Lady Sings the Blues, Mahogany. And interesting that Billy did Bingo Long in the Traveling All-Stars with, who just passed, I just went blank, but Darth Vader's voice.
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones.
They were both in that movie, and they never could imagine they both being Star Wars fans,
Right.
But in any case, not to get off the track, he comes in in April, and we're rehearsing, kind of trying to get a deal with Motown. Back then, you did a 3-song demo, and then if they liked it, they put money into you for a record. And he says, Corey, would you like to stand in for me in Arizona for this new Star Wars thing? Because he had done Empire, Billy. And Corey's kind of adamant. He knows what it is to be on a set, and he'd rather be in an air-conditioned studio doing music. And he goes, oh, really? But we want to finish our music. So Billy kind of points and said, would you like to come with your guitar? And not that I have a job or anything, but come and play music at night. There'll be a lot of downtime, and you can continue to write. So Corey and I actually arrived on a Sunday, and that first night we played for everybody. No one was working yet. Peter Mayhew was standing in a hot tub, like towering over me,
Right.
by the pool. Mark was in the Speedos. I have pictures, I think. Jumping. So I said, wow, this is going to be something else, And we played music, and Carrie's dancing, and I said, this is wonderful,
Right.
But then driving out to the desert, 120 degrees, dry heat, and a lot of sand moving and a lot of work to be done. And I got a little restless at the third day, and I said, how do I get a job without, I wanted to be grateful because I'm there, but how do I ask for a job? I'm not going to ask Billy. So Howard Kazanjian, the producer, took Billy out one night. We got to tag along, and I said, Howard, I'll work for free the next day if you put me to work. I'm here.
All right.
It's long days, and I'm here. Use me. And the next day I showed up, and actually Corey had been standing in for his dad, and they made him a Klaatu on the barge scene when they jump over the Sarlacc pit from the skiff, and they made me the guard. And I followed the footsteps. And Mark, Luke Skywalker, I guess he cuts me in half. I didn't know what the saber was doing, but
Sure.
I know we did our moves, and that was it. And luckily, Billy D took some pictures with the mask off for Corey and I for keepsake. And then the still photographer, Ralph Nelson Jr., also took some pictures. He made some slides, which I have. This is Revenge, pretty cool now.
Right,
whatever. And they put in the archives for years. And then Corey lives in Atlanta now because his mom, Billy's first wife. And they did Dragon Con, and that picture came up, and the agent saw it and said, what is this? Corey, you're involved? Like, oh, yeah. So the story comes out. It goes on Facebook, I guess. And I get the guys from England, Burnley, they have a show there, Star Wars Fun Fan Day. Mm-hmm. They go, did you ever sign autographs? I said, no, I never thought about it. I don't even consider myself a working actor.
Right.
And they said, well, we have like 60 items from the 80s we want to send you. And I get a box with a check. And then I said, that's it. This is crazy. And then I go to Burnley. And I meet the band Blue Harvest. I play with them. Yeah. And I said, this is wonderful. I could incorporate the music. Yeah. And I start signing. And it's been like 16 years now.
Okay.
And now Disney opened a whole nother can of worms because I had no idea. Like Timothy Zahn's written 16 novels. I mean, back then there's prequels and sequels, and there's a lot of scrutiny, compared to the trilogy, what's going to happen.
Right.
And it was a tight-ended kind of thing, I'd say, in a way. And green screen, the acting definitely suffers.
Gotcha.
Compared to now, they have the volume sets where, because back then, I love that they had car parts, the stress. I'm looking at it, make the gun. It's intuitive, and it means a lot more. There's a lot more soul to it. And that's coming back, Abrams kind of brought it back. And now the volume set's genius.
Yeah.
And Werner Herzog must be, I don't know if you know how.
Yeah, so
as a director, Fitzgerald,
he was the
whole nother. I don't think people realize him in that movie, the magnitude of him. He's probably saying, "God, I could have shot. They could have shot Lawrence of Arabia in that movie.
Right.
It wouldn't have been an exile." So in any case, it was a kismet thing, and my toy. I don't know. My characters so embraced and loved, and the toys, and now we're like the old school, and even all the new fighters come out, and it makes us more valid in a way, and it's pretty amazing that
Cool.
It's just hard to imagine.
Aidan, what's your story? How did you get all hooked up? Not necessarily how did you get hooked up with Star Wars, but how did you get hooked up with acting? And into Star Wars?
Well, I didn't actually kind of realize I wanted to be an actor, to be fair, and I just went up the sort of normal kind of academic career, school and university and stuff, and then while I was always interested in sports, especially sort of gymnastics and diving, off a diving board and stuff like that. And then when I was in France as part of my year out, when I was doing my French degree, there wasn't much in this town I was in down in Provence, which in terms of sports, but there was a dance school. And I watched this program one night on the Canadian Royal Ballet, and I thought, well, they all look pretty fit. It looks quite fun. So as I was passing the dance school, I stuck my head in to just have a look and see what was going on. And the woman, they went, "Oh, a man, you look like this." General shortage of men in dancing. And it was like, I was the only male in the class of young French girls dancing, so it wasn't a bad place to be.
Say, that sounds like a
wow.
And then that signed me up. That sounds like a winner.
So I went back, did my final year. I was at London Uni, but I was doing dance classes, and one of the teachers of the dance classes also choreographed for a children's show. And she said, "Look, they're recasting one of the guys on this children's show, and I think that you'd be good for it, like this." So I auditioned for it, but didn't get it, which was fine. But then I was sort of faced with a decision when I finished my degree: is it something I'd be interested in trying, or should I just I had a place to go and do a postgrad. So I thought, well, I'll give it a year and see how I get on. So I went back to London and just did dance classes and got into a small ballet company. And then I went from there to a summer show, to a pantomime. And then I got into a West End musical, stayed in West End musicals for about 7 years. And then I started having my family and wanted to do stuff for children's TV. Couldn't get straight into children's TV, so I went through via the theatre, where I did a lot of puppeteering in the theatre, so just developed that kind of skill set. And then when I got into children's TV, that evolved into doing shows which were kind of live action people with animatronic heads. And I started off doing the voice, then doing the voice and operating the animatronics. And then I got an opportunity to audition for Hellboy 2, and for one of the creature roles, and got that, and then that just kind of opened up this whole world to me, really. So,
wow,
yeah.
So, you said you started off kind of in the dance, and that kind of led. So, did the dance help with your?
Yeah.
Because I feel like you do a lot of creature puppeteering, and you do a lot of like the motion capture stuff,
Yes.
which we kind of talked earlier about. So, did the dance help
Yeah,
you
100%.
with those positioning and all of that,
Yeah.
like body movement and body positioning?
100%. I think, as you will attest, when a lot of the heads that you're in, if it's a full animatronic head, you can't see, you can't hear because of the noise of the animatronics, all the motors and things whirring inside your head. So you have, if you're involved in dialogue, you will have the dialogue playing in one ear. You will then have the person who's operating the animatronics in the other ear, and they will help maneuver you around the set. So it's kind of like air traffic control, but you're blind and they're driving you. But you have to make it look like it's all completely natural, and also, especially if you've got dialogue, hitting the dialogue, finding the eye line to camera. So your operator will also help you to make the frame, basically, and guide you within that. So you have to have complete trust in the team around it. So you have dressers and you have your puppeteer who's kind of operating you. So if you have an internal choreography, if you can turn a certain and keep doing that and keep doing it exactly the same each time so that you can find your marks and find your camera angles and things. So that really helps.
Doc, do you guys have a question?
Well, now that I'm hearing this, it's making me think. You're hearing about all this technology with the modern Star Wars costumes compared to the Gamorrean. Like, did you have any communication, like sight lines?
No, I had footsteps drawn on the barge to follow. But I Mike Quinn became a good friend of mine. Stuart Freeborn, we hung out all the time. He was a fascinating gentleman. And Nick Maley later on, as you know, animatronics. Yeah. So I knew they were working. Well, Jabba wasn't really there at the barge, but they had two R2-D2s electronic, so they did that. I'm an engineer anyway, so we kind of cross. I understand all that in a way, but it's fascinating because it's being pioneered at the same time as they go. And Penny Baker got into the third to give it a little human quality, I guess, turning. So, technology was peeking through in that sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think we had. I think maybe the Apple One was out. Maybe.
Right.
Like IBM.
Right.
So
like the dark ages of technology, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and another question as well, which we were kind of talking about this before we started. Can you go into a little bit what it's like being in that mask, how much you sweat? Talk about you were kind of telling us almost the science of it before.
So if you're in a full animatronic head, let's say something like Boolio or something like that, when the mouth, if the mouth has been sort of fully kind of costumed as well, fully fabricated, you are literally blind inside there. But it doesn't just obstruct your vision, it also obstructs your breathing. So when the mouth is closed in particular, as you're breathing, the amount of CO2 inside the head increases. And as that, you get that imbalance in the gases that you're breathing, a raised CO2 makes you sweat more and it raises your heart rate. So you're kind of dealing with all of that inside the head while trying to sort of look natural and normal in the scene, like that. And you also have, some of the heads I've been in have had sort of in excess of sort of 40 servos in there, and they're all drawing a lot of power and they generate a lot of heat. So in between takes, your dresser will rush in and check that you're okay. The puppeteer operator will throw the mouth open, and they'll stick a fan in your mouth to actually. And that does two things. One, it slows, it refreshes the air in the head. So for me, I take 5 deep breaths, and that usually settles my heart rate and everything kind of back down again. But it also helps to cool down the servos and things. And as I was saying a little bit earlier, that I've actually had, not on a Star Wars head, I have to say, but they were maybe 1 or 2 Star Wars engineers who'd built the heads. I've had 3 heads where one of the servos has actually gone up in flames because it's been drawing too much power. So, and when that happens, you kind of go, I can smell burning. Is there anything out there? And then suddenly the head just goes woof, and just fills with this really kind of acrid smoke. So once that happened to me the first time, it was actually on a children's program called Zingzillas. There was no protocol, and it took about 6 or 7 minutes to get the head on and about 4 or 5 minutes to get the head off, and I couldn't hold my breath for that amount of time. So it was. After that, we developed protocols that if anything was going wrong with the head, your dresser or your puppeteer is watching you intently for any signs of distress. And as soon as there are anything, it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a take and you're working with whoever you're working with, you stop it, you hit the floor, and they come in and just, even if it's a question of destroying the head, they come in and get the head off as soon as possible. Yeah, because it's a fairly serious business.
That's scary, man.
Yeah,
that's what I saw a picture. I work in the trades, and I saw a picture of you. It looked like it was possibly on Force Awakens set, and it looked like they had those like cordless Makita mini air blowers.
That's right. Yeah.
Just like blowing them straight at your face. Yeah. I'm just like, all right, they must hardcore cool you down with that.
Yes, it did. Yeah, I think that was probably on Boba Joe when we did Force Awakens. Yeah, but we were talking like extreme heat in the desert, and that thing was, about 40 plus kilos, you know. So
Oh, good Lord.
yeah. So,
Did they have animatronic heads back with?
yeah.
Mine was latex. nothing
Yes. No.
animatronic.
Yeah. It's foam latex, but then there's these sort of animatronics involved. Yeah. So yeah, there was animatronics. I'm sure.
The one I wore.
Yeah. I'm not sure. You would have heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
But it's just like I guess like R2D2 where Kenny gets in one, it's more
Yes.
human quality.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other
yeah.
is
There's
a remote.
all
yeah,
various.
yeah.
I think it's evolved more and more as it's gone.
Right,
on.
of course.
And the servos are all becoming much smaller, so they can get more and more of
Yeah.
them in. And the faces, actually, I mean, the faces. If you like at the casino scene, you know, I mean, it's the biggest. They have more units and more creatures than ever. I think it broke several world records. That thing, just for the number of radio units that were actually being operated at the same time. It's incredible. But almost any one of those heads could have held a scene, and yet, you know, they just the camera rushes past them and you never see them, and it's such a tragedy because they're all absolute works of art.
Yeah.
You know?
Unbelievable.
We thank you guys for coming in. We thank you guys. It looks like our time is basically to wrap up. Yeah, I mean, it goes quick, right? We get you talking a little bit.
fast.
I mean, it real too fast. So we got Aidan Cook, who's been a puppeteer on numerous Star Wars,
Yeah.
K2, Benthic 2 Tubes.
Yeah.
There was another one you just mentioned from Force Awakens.
Well, Boba Joe was
Boba Joe.
Strono Cookie Tugs.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 30 plus.
And we had Stephen Costantino, who was one of the Gamorrean guards in Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Thank you guys for sharing your guys' stories. Thank you
Pleasure.
guys for being a part of ICC Con. If you guys are listening and watching out there, make sure you come on down. They'll be here for 2 more days. This is Friday. We got Saturday and Sunday left. You guys will be
And
here.
the conman will be playing Saturday night.
Oh yeah, your
Awesome.
band will be playing Saturday night. So yeah, if you want to come out to,
Come, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
yep, no worries.
Yeah.
So thank you guys very much. It was
You're
wonderful
welcome.
meeting you guys.
Well, you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you take a picture of us?